Everybody's favorite topic, conspiracy theories, right? Conspiracy theories can be fun, can be interesting, but what does the Bible have to say about conspiracy theories? Does it say anything? I think there is some principles that we can take from the Bible and apply to this topic. Now, this has been something I've been thinking about doing for a while, this topic. I've not sat down and done it yet, but I think it's important. And one of the reasons why is because I have noticed some very prominent people, very well known people, that have seemed to take a much more accepting stance on like any conspiracy theory, and that has seemed to lead them to a path of really almost like hatred of a certain specific people group. I'm not saying like certain specific as in that's always the same people group, but I have seen this a couple times with people that I used to like, I used to follow, I used to really enjoy. I have also seen other people that maybe I haven't really followed, but they're also very conspiratorial in nature, and they also have a specific people group that they demonize, they don't like. Now, this can be, I've seen it lead to anti-Semitism. I've seen it lead to like a white supremacist type of ideology, an anti-white ideology. So I think it can lead to many different views that are all wrong, that I think you can make an argument is sinful because you're putting a people group down because of who they are. But let's get into, and I don't think it's going to be a terribly long video, but I want to look at some verses that I think we can take and actually have some application to the idea of a conspiracy theory. Now, let's look at first, we're going to go to Proverbs, because Proverbs is all about wisdom, right? Proverbs 2. And let's start with verse 1, and we'll read down through verse 6. My son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you, listening closely to wisdom and directing your heart to understanding. Furthermore, if you call out to insight and lift your voice to understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it like hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and discover the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Now, Christians are encouraged to seek wisdom from God. I think this includes discernment and understanding truth from falsehood. With this, though, this does not mean a blind acceptance of like public narrative or mainstream narrative or anything like that. This is an encouragement to seek wisdom. And sometimes there may be things that are kind of outside of what we would consider the accepted view that are true. And I will, I'll try to remember at the end of this, I will actually share a conspiracy theory that I like. I thought was interesting. Actually, when I first heard about it, I thought it was a load of crap. And after looking into it, I believe it is true, and it's not accepted by the mainstream. Actually, YouTube, I think, will still put a little flag at the bottom of the video if that's like in the description or the title and stuff like that. But I will, I'll talk about that at the end. So we are encouraged to seek wisdom. Encouraged to seek wisdom from God. Now, next verse. 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 21. Now, this is a more specific regarding prophecy, but I think there's a heart behind this that we can take. Let's start with verse 19. Don't stifle the spirit. Don't despise prophecies, but test all things. Hold on to what is good. Stay away from every kind of evil. Now, again, this is specifically for prophecy, but I do think it's getting at a larger idea of testing and evaluating. We saw this with the previous scripture talking about going to God for wisdom. This is discernment, right? And discernment is not just in regards to spiritual gifts, but it can be in regards to if you think someone is being honest with you or truthful with you, if you think there's something maybe that's kind of fishy about something that's going on, things like that. So this idea of testing and using discernment is a Christian principle. And I think, like I said, that can apply to mainstream ideas. That can also apply to conspiracy theories. I think you need to be skeptical of both. You should not just accept anything. To an extent, don't. There's some people that anything that is told to them at all, they will just instantly get rid of, and I think that can be problematic too. Next verse we're going to look at is Titus chapter 3. And I need to share my screen again. Titus chapter 3. We'll start with verse 8. This saying is trustworthy. I want you to insist on these things so that those who have believed God might be careful to devote themselves to good works. These are good and profitable for everyone, but avoid foolish debates, genealogies, quarrels, and disputes about the law because they are unprofitable and worthless. Reject a divisive person after a first and second warning, for you know that such a person has gone astray and is sinning. He is self-condemned. So, this idea of avoiding controversies, right? Conspiracy theories can lead to unproductive arguments that distract from more meaningful spiritual pursuits. As an example, a current example that I see playing out in front of me online right now, the Charlie Kirk stuff, right? I have seen over the last several days, I have heard Charlie Kirk's voice proclaiming the gospel more than I have in the last several years. And I am someone that listened to Charlie Kirk. I listened to his content. I enjoyed his content. I think he did good with presenting the gospel, going into hostile areas, and presenting the gospel despite that. Not backing down, not being shy about his faith. I, as someone who listened to him, have heard his voice presenting the gospel more in the last week, not even week, the last 6 days, 5 days, than I have heard probably in the last several months, if not years. But there are some other things that are popping up. Some conspiracy theories that, from what I've seen, have zero evidence backing it. It is just people throwing stuff out because it goes with an agenda that they already have. There's no evidence that I've seen backing these ideas. It is literally, like I said, just people trying to promote their own agenda and get other people behind it, so they're tying in Charlie Kirk's name with it. That is doing the opposite of what we see here in Titus. Avoid foolish controversies. These are unproductive arguments. It ties people down in discussing and debating something that has no evidence behind it. It is just something that you are trying to get more traction behind, so you come up with a connection. And if you look hard enough at anything, you can find connections with basically anything and everything. Yeah. Okay, next passage is John. Sorry, I'm a little slower. I am jumping back and forth between like 3 screens, and I only have my laptop because I'm traveling, obviously, and my background looks like I'm being held hostage and making a video there. I'm not though. I'm not though. Okay, we'll start with in John chapter 8, we'll start with verse 30. And he was saying these things, many believed in him. Then Jesus said to the Jews who had believed him, if you continue in my word, you really are my disciples. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So, we are to be pursuing truth. Christians are called to pursue truth. And we believe we have the ultimate truth, so other truths should line up with that. We should be pursuing truth. Now, if you're pursuing truth, that inherently involves resisting narratives that lack credibility or evidence. Don't just jump into something because you think you like how it sounds or it backs up another idea that you have if there's no evidence behind it or scanty evidence behind it. Just because someone says that there's these dots that are connected doesn't mean they're always actually connected. Fifth verse. I think we have 7 total. Yeah, fifth verse. In 2 Timothy. I think it's 2. Yeah. 2 Timothy 2 verses... We'll start with verse 22. Flee from youthful passions and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord from a pure heart. But reject foolish and ignorant disputes, because you know that they breed quarrels. The Lord's servant must not quarrel, but must be gentle to everyone, able to teach, and patient, instructing his opponents with gentleness. Perhaps God will grant them repentance, leading them to the knowledge of the truth. So, again, sorry. I feel like I have a sneeze. Engaging conspiracy theories should be done with kindness and patience, not contention. This is where, if you see someone that's pushing a conspiracy theory, addressing it, right? But doing so with kindness. I will say there is someone I'm close to who at one point in time, I don't know if they actually believed it or if they were saying they believed it just to be kind of, I don't know, maybe facetious a little bit. But they at least were saying at one point in time, they were throwing out ideas like, well, maybe the earth is flat, right? And I criticized them. I pretty bluntly criticized them. But this was a person I was close with, and we would joke around like that, just normally, criticize each other, and I think you have to know who you're talking to, and I think you have to tailor that to the person. But it's the idea of, you catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar, right? So you can be kind with people while you're going through this. I think you can be kind with people. You can address that they are bringing up points that have no backing or very little evidence to back, or just it's inferior evidence to the evidence that's suggesting that it's wrong. I don't think it's wrong to point out that people are buying into something that is not credible. I think it's actually a loving thing to do. So, next verse, Philippians. I guess I need to share my screen, don't I? I'm ready to be back in my house and have my extra monitor to make this easier. Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any moral excellence, if there is anything praiseworthy, dwell on these things. Do what you have learned and received and heard from me and seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you. This encourages focusing on positive and truthful thoughts. What can help avoiding a negativity often associated in conspiracy theories. So, like I said, the conspiracy theories I have seen multiple times lead to this idea that there is a demonization of a certain people group. That brings about innately a sense of negativity in you. I've also seen that this kind of pushes a lot of times, not always, maybe most times, but it kind of pushes this idea of a victimhood. You know, these bad things are happening because of those people. They'll use the word they a lot, and it's very ambiguous, and not any specific person is being talked about, but it's like a they that's universal, talking about all of these people group. But let's use the example of a white supremacist, right? Talking about they are harming you, they are hurting you, they are taking away your opportunity. Talking about people that are different race than you. It's not true, but it also breeds this idea I mean, you're judging people based on their skin tone, right? With this one specifically, you're judging people based on their skin tone, which would be partiality that we see talked about in James. So, it's not good. It breeds negativity. It gets us away from what we should be doing, which is spreading the gospel to people. The last verse I have is Psalm 118, verse 8. It is better to take refuge. Sorry, I'm going to go back a little bit. Start in verse 6. The Lord is for me, I will not be afraid. What can a mere mortal do to me? The Lord is my helper. Therefore, I will look in triumph on those who hate me. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in humanity. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in nobles. Trusting in God's plan. This is something we've talked about a lot in our Bible in the year that we're going through right now. We've seen God's sovereignty through all these different events. Trusting in God's plan can alleviate the fear of paranoia that conspiracy theories might induce. I think, ultimately, a conspiracy theory that gets you to this point of, like I've said, demonizing a people group or elevating a people group over others, things like that. I think a lot of this does end up boiling down to not trusting in God. So, how can a Christian deal with conspiracy theories? I think we should pray for discernment. I think it's good to research with a critical and open mind, but also with a healthy dose of skepticism. A lot of people that buy into conspiracy theories do that already, but they do it only for like mainstream narratives or mainstream points of view that are being pushed. They see something that supports something they already believe, they just instantly accept it. Completely and utterly accept it with no scrutiny whatsoever. Another thing we can do, engage in discussions with love and patience, aiming to educate rather than argue. And lastly, redirect focus towards what is spiritually beneficial and true according to Christian teachings. Let's say that a conspiracy theory is true. Okay? Let's say that there is some group that is out to get you specifically. What should your focus be on then? Does it change? No, your focus is still on knowing God, making him known, spreading the gospel, bringing other people into the family. That is ultimately what we're here for. And I think an unhealthy focus on conspiracy theories does actually get in the way of preaching the gospel. I think this approach balances the need for vigilance in a world where misinformation can spread with a Christian call to live in peace, love, and truth. Now, I did say I was going to talk about a conspiracy theory, and I will touch on this really quickly. I'm a history buff. I love history. Specifically, I've always been fascinated with World War II time period. I also like World War One. I like the Civil War, the American Revolution. So I'm big on specifically American history. That's where I live. That's where I grew up. One that I always found interesting, not flying around. I heard this idea that Hitler did not die at the end of World War II. That he actually escaped to Argentina, and he was working up another Reich to come back and finish what he had started. Excuse me. Now, I heard people talking about this, and I thought that it was completely like bonkers. No way. And I saw a History Channel had done a series called Hunting Hitler, and it was talking about this. And so I'm like, okay, I'll look at what they have to say. It's just like 3 or 4 seasons of this show. I'm like, surely there's not that much actual evidence for it. Getting into it, there is. And I walked away believing that Hitler escaped and he lived out the rest of his days in Argentina trying to rebuild the German Reich. So, if you're interested in that, I suggest you go watch that on the History Channel. I think they have them all on YouTube and it's for free. But it's a fascinating series. Good example of conspiracy theory that can actually become true. One thing I did want to, and this is kind of what kicked off this whole thing. I've seen a lot of videos recently, and this has been addressed online, but there's a lot of people that haven't seen it addressed, and it's still spreading around. With this Charlie Kirk incident, I've seen a lot of videos that are talking about this one individual in the background. They said that he was giving signals to the shooter to let him know that it's okay to take the shot. Like he messes with his hat, he touches his face. This guy that they're claiming is in cahoots with the shooter is Frank Turek, who is a Christian theologian, apologist, and is very, very good friends with Charlie Kirk and his family. So much so that I have, even from me, what I have seen on the outside looking in, I have no doubt that Frank Turek would have, in an instant, if he had known, he would have stepped in front of that bullet for Charlie. No doubt. But people are going around now claiming that he is actually was helping this shooter. There's no evidence for it whatsoever. It's just people speculating. That's the type of stuff that can hurt people, that can ruin people's lives. If you are claiming to be a Christian and you're pushing stuff like this, I don't see this as being really any different than making a definitive claim that the rapture is going to happen on this day or Jesus is coming back this day and then it doesn't happen. You're making Christians look bad and you are doing a disservice to the gospel by pushing stuff as fact that has no backing whatsoever. As Christians, we are called to use discernment. We are called to seek out truth and present the truth. So, hope you enjoy it. Let me know in the comments what's your favorite conspiracy theory, or one that maybe you didn't think was true that has actually since come to be true, or one that you were positive was true and it got debunked, or whatever. Let me know in the comments. Anything pertaining to the topic of conspiracy theories, or if you think I'm completely out of line and there's no issue with it whatsoever, let me know that as well.
Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as all those things help the channel grow. If this has been a blessing to you, you can share it with somebody else. It can be a blessing to them, and word of mouth is the best way that podcasts grow as well. So that can be something that helps this channel as well. Come back every single day. We're going to have more content every single day. Bible reading plan. We're going through the Bible an entire year, different teachings, all kinds of just really great biblical sound stuff like that. So you're not going to want to miss it. Come back, subscribe. Thanks. God bless.